It's been a while since I've looked back at a prior NHL entry draft on this channel, too long, in fact. So today, we look back at 2007 to see the hits, the misses, and who'd I'd select if I were each team with the do-over. Now, friendly reminder for these redos, if a team drafted a forward, I'll be giving them the best forward remaining at that point. Same with defense, and same with goaltenders. It's impossible to know who selected for need versus who selected the best remaining option. This way we get a fair look at each position. Now, heading into this draft, NHL Central Scouting had the top 10 North American skaters listed in this order. Number 1, Kyle Turris, then Patrick Kane, James Van Riemsdyk, Keaton Ellerbee, Carl Alsner, Sam Gagner, Jakub Voracek, Angelo Esposito, Zach Hamill, and David Perron at 10, with the top 3 goaltenders being Jeremy Smith, Trevor Cann, and Antoine Lafleur. On the European side, we see number 1 Mikhail Backlund, with Alexei Sharaponov, Lars Eller, Maxim Mayorov, Joachim Anderson, Simon Jalmerson, Nicholas Torp, Sergei Koristin, Maxim Goncharov, and at 10 Evgeny Dadonov, with the top goaltenders you all just said, Mark Ouya and Marek Benda. How did this draft play out compared to Central Scouting, and how will it play out? How will it play out now with the power of hindsight? Well, let's find out. The number 1 overall pick in this draft, you all know, was Patrick Kane. And here, with a redo in their back pocket, the Chicago Blackhawks still select Patrick Kane. This entire video could be dedicated to his career, and maybe one day we'll make that video, but to put it simply, Kane is the greatest American hockey player in NHL history, and that is a list that includes the likes of Mike Mcdonough, Pat LaFontaine, and Brian Leetch. So that really is saying something. He has the individual hardware, the cups, over 1,000 points already as he approaches 1,000 games played, over 400 goals now. He is the American GOAT, hands down. Second overall, the Philadelphia Flyers selected forward James Van Riemsdyk, but here they take Jamie Benn. Now, we'll talk a little bit more about JVR later, but for Benn, he's absolutely the steal of this draft, and one of the biggest steals in draft history for my money. Originally selected in the 5th round by Dallas, 129th overall, the captain of the Stars has gone on to post over 300 goals in his career, and at the time of recording, is on the verge of breaking 700 career points. Third overall, the Phoenix Coyotes selected forward Kyle Turris, but here they take Max Pacioretty. Now, we'll talk about Turris a little bit later on, but for Patches here, he gets the shout, and honestly, it's a dogfight for these top forward spots. It's a very close race, and it's tough to go wrong either way, but the positive effect that he has on his teams is undeniable. Pacioretty is closing in on 300 goals, as well as 600 points in significantly less games than some of his direct competition. Fourth overall, the LA Kings picked up defenseman Thomas Hickey, but here they take PK Subban. Now, we'll talk about Hickey a little bit later on as well, but as for this pick, it's another gigantic steal. Rather than going 43rd overall in the 2nd round to the Habs, the Kings take Subban. Now, keep in mind, this was pre-back injury PK Subban, pre-Devils PK Subban. He tormented the Bruins for years as a simply electric player to watch. He has over 400 points to his credit, which goes along very nicely to any highlight reel, which will of course include him laying Brad Marchand out. So I 100% believe PK at his peak was the best overall defenseman in this draft, and thus the Kings take him 4th. 5th overall, the Washington Capitals picked up defenseman Carl Alsner, but here they take Ryan McDonough. For McDonough, he jumps from 12th into the top 5, and you could argue maybe it's a little bit short. You could argue for him over PK Subban, and fair enough, as the former Rangers captain is the biggest competition to Subban in this draft. He has over 300 points in his career, a little bit more responsible in his own zone, so it might just come down to what type of defenseman the teams would have been looking for. 6th overall, the Edmonton Oilers picked up Sam Gagner, but here they take Jake Voracek. Now, Gagner aside for the moment, Voracek could easily be argued over Pacioretty, and if you wanted to say over Benn, sure, maybe. He jumps 1 spot from 7th to 6th, and regardless, Edmonton would have done much better here with the pick. Now, Voracek has over 700 points in nearly 1,000 games. He takes no shit from reporters, as we learned this year. He's a great point producer who, at his best, again, a game changer, and he will pass over 500 career assists this season. 7th overall, the Columbus Blue Jackets took Jake Voracek, but with him already off the board, they pick up Logan Couture. Now, despite what I think of Couture in the aftermath of a series of interesting tweets last fall, there's no denying his ability on the ice. He stays in the top 10 here, and again, he could be argued for a higher spot, but the key is that CBJ does well with this pick. And whether or not they would have traded the future Sharks captain like they did with Voracek, who knows, but with over 560 points to his name, Couture is undoubtedly one of the top forwards in this draft. 8th overall, the Boston Bruins selected forward Zach Hamill. Here, they take David Perron. An infamous miss for my Bruins. Hamill played just 20 career NHL games, finishing with 4 assists. No disrespect, but when you're compared to the likes of John Kalinske, who was the 152nd overall pick for Philadelphia, you know things didn't pan out. On the flip side, David Perron, very much a part of this logjam conversation. He jumps from 26th into the top 10. He has over 570 points to his name at the time of recording, a cup ring at the Bruins' expense in 2019. Needless to say, this could have gone better. 9th overall, the San Jose Sharks originally selected forward Logan Couture, but with him gone, they take James Van Riemsdyk. Now, you can't really do all that wrong here. JVR does fall from 2nd, but stays in the top 10. He recently passed over 500 points in his career, and in my opinion, absolutely lived up to what you would want from a top 2 overall pick in this draft. The problem for him and every other forward is the Hall of Fame-sized shadow of Patrick Kane. 10th overall, the Florida Panthers selected defenseman Keaton Ellerbee, but here they take Kevin Shattenkirk. Now, Ellerbee did play over 200 career NHL games, has 27 points in that time, but Shat Deuces, he's going to hit 700 career games played this season, has nearly 400 points to his credit. Very much worthy of jumping up from 14th overall into the top 10. It's easy to forget just how well he did for the likes of Colorado and St. Louis before his career started to slide. 11th overall, the Carolina Hurricanes originally selected forward Brandon Sutter, but here they take Wayne Simmons. Now, Sutter's no slouch, but the Wayne train keeps on chugging, jumping up from 61st overall to just outside the top 10. At his best, a terror. Over 500 points in over 900 career games, tough as nails, and in my opinion, he personified the prototypical hockey player of the 70s and 80s while still being able to be relevant in the modern game. 12th overall, the Montreal Canadiens originally selected defenseman Ryan Mcdonough, but with him off the board, they take Jake Muzzin. Now, on one hand, Montreal misses out on the second best defenseman of this draft, with him being off the board, but on the other, they avoid a disastrous trade, as they never have a chance to move Mcdonough to the Rangers. So instead, they take Jake Muzzin, nearly 600 games played, over 260 points, and another player who can be defined as tough as nails. A cup winner, a leader. There's an argument to take Muzzin over Shattenkirk for sure, despite them both having cups, of course. Not too bad for the 141st overall pick, though, in Muzzin. 13th overall, the St. Louis Blues select forward Lars Eller, but here they take Kyle Turris. Now, Eller will be mentioned a little bit later on as well, but Turris is another guy who can be overlooked due to a rough couple of years recently. He falls from 3rd overall, but with nearly 400 points and nearly 750 games, there's a reason he was listed above Patrick Kane heading into the draft, even if that did not work out anywhere remotely well for Turris. 14th overall, the Colorado Avalanche selected defenseman Kevin Shattenkirk, but with him off the board, they take Alec Martinez. Now, what a draft for the Kings when it comes to defensemen, by the way, huh? First Muzzin, now Martinez, who jumps from 95th overall into the top half of the draft, over 200 points in over 600 games at the time of recording. Jazz Hands won 2 cups with the Kings, including a cup winner. Sorry to bring it up, Rangers fans. 15th overall, the Edmonton Oilers selected defenseman Alex Plant, but here they take Justin Braun instead. Just 10 games from Plant is all the Oilers got, and when you compare that to, say, someone who went 118th overall to Pittsburgh and Alex Grant, who played only 7 games, again, something went wrong. Braun, on the other hand, jumps up from 201st overall into the top 15, nearly 700 games played with nearly 200 points, and a reliable defense-first option that helped bolster the Sharks' blue line for many playoff runs. 16th overall, the Minnesota Wild selected forward Colton Gillies, but instead, perhaps controversially, they take Sam Gagner. Now, for Gillies, 154 games, 18 points, but he's comparable to someone like Dana Terrell, who went 47th overall to the Tampa Bay Lightning. Terrell has a superior stat line, though, so again, that's how you know Minnesota missed. Instead, here comes that little bit of controversy here. Minnesota takes Gagner. Now, listen, there are absolutely some forwards coming up that I would take over Gagner in modern times. That said, Gagner did just have a hat trick with the Red Wings, but understand that he has over 850 games played, over 460 points, and yes, there's trades, AHL demotions, questionable defense along the way, but at his best, Gagner was a legitimate top 6 offensive option. 17th overall, the New York Rangers selected forward Alexei Sharaponov, and here they still select Alexei Sharaponov. Called a cop-out. We don't know just how special this kid could have been. Sharaponov passed away less than a year and a half after this draft took place, collapsing on the bench during a KHL game, and ultimately, again, passing away due to complications from an undiagnosed heart condition. In a more fair world, perhaps he's still in the NHL to this day, alongside some other Russian greats that we still have the joy to watch. Always a Ranger, Alexei Sharaponov. 18th overall, the St. Louis Blues selected defenseman Ian Cole, and I still have them taking Ian Cole. A rarity for the first round. The Blues were on the money with this pick. 550 games played for this physical defense-first blue line option, and 2 cups in Pittsburgh makes that trophy case look a little bit better. 19th overall, the Anaheim Ducks selected forward Logan McMillan, but here they take Mikael Backlund. Now, McMillan is one of those few first-round picks in this draft to never play a game in the NHL. Instead, the Ducks take Backlund. It's another toss-up of a pick. He jumps from 24th overall. He has over 700 games to his credit, nearly 400 points. He might be overpaid in Calgary now, but that reliability certainly could have been used for Anaheim over well, nothing, unfortunately. 20th overall, the Pittsburgh Penguins selected forward Angelo Esposito, but here with the second chance, they take Alex Killorn. Now, Esposito is another one of those guys to have never played an NHL game, and the Pens instead get Harvard-educated, no-mask-wearing smart man, Stanley Cup champion, Alex Killorn. Now, joking aside about the absurdity of a Harvard grad not being smart enough to wear a mask, you could certainly argue a higher ranking for Killorn, and I'm sure that Gagne pick is continuing to annoy people, but I assure you, I couldn't care less about your concerns. Anyway, Killorn is sick, and no, not just because he doesn't wear a mask. He has over 600 games played, over 300 points, and again was a deserving Stanley Cup champion with Tampa. Not too bad for pick number 77. 21st overall, the Edmonton Oilers picked Riley Nash, but here they take Nick Bonino. Over 640 games, nearly 300 points for Bonino, cup rings as well, and arguably still one of the most underrated players in the league. Could also be deserving of a higher spot. Not too bad for pick number 173. 22nd overall, Montreal selected forward Max Pacioretty, but with him off the board, they take Carl Hagelin. So they settle for the man who was originally picked number 168, the speed demon in Hagelin, over 620 games played, over 260 points, a 2-time Stanley Cup champion. It's incredible to see just how many cups were won from this draft class. Pick number 23, the Nashville Predators selected defenseman Jonathan Blum. With him off the board, they take Carl Gunnarsson. Now, Blum played 110 games, but he's comparable to pick number 110, Justin Falk, no, not that one, and to the 162 games that we saw from Brett Bellemore. So that's how you know it's like, okay, maybe not really a first-round guy. Gunnarsson, though, despite his health reputations, has over 600 games played, over 130 points. Originally picked number 194 to Toronto, it was great to see him get a ring in 2019, admittedly. Again, still having some injury issues with the Blues to this day, but solid when healthy. Pick number 24, the Calgary Flames originally selected Mikael Backlund, but with him off the board, they take Lars Eller, who skid down the draft board here. It finally ends. Over 760 games and 300 points to his credit. Surprise, surprise, Eller as well, another Stanley Cup winner. Pick number 25, the Vancouver Canucks selected forward Patrick White. Instead, hilariously enough, they take Brandon Sutter. Now, White played no career games in the NHL. Sutter, though, over 750 with nearly 300 points. Never quite carved out that spot as a true top 6 scoring threat in his career, but it's been a respectable career, even if he's been overpaid in Vancouver, of course, over the past few years. Pick number 26, the St. Louis Blues originally selected David Perron. Instead, they take Patrick Maroon. So a cup winner regardless. St. Louis had the right idea, getting players from this draft to build that 2019 winning team. Over 530 games for Maroon, over 230 points. The big rig jumps for pick 161 up into the first round. 27th overall, the Detroit Red Wings picked defenseman Brendan Smith, but here instead, they take Carl Alsner. Now, we'll still see Smith in this draft, but Alsner finally stops plummeting as well. Before the Montreal experiment, Alsner was a solid option as a stay-at-home defender. Nearly 700 games to his name, 130 points. Just not quite what you needed out of a top defenseman in this modern era. Pick number 28, the San Jose Sharks select defenseman Nick Petrecki. They take Brendan Smith. Now, one NHL game to Petrecki's credit, which is 1% more, or one more, I should say, than 99% of us will ever have. But compare that to Smith, who might not be the best defenseman in the league, but he has nearly 500 games to his credit and over 100 points. It's weird to say, but Brendan Smith is a standout amongst this defensive class, even with time at forward to his credit. Pick number 29, the Ottawa Senators selected Jim O'Brien, but here with that penultimate selection, they take Evgeny Dadonov. Now, 77 games for O'Brien in his career, whereas Dadonov has 200 points in just over 300 games at the time of recording. The only slight on Dadonov, call him what you will, is his lack of time in the NHL compared to others in this class. Of course, he would end up in Ottawa regardless, though. And with the final pick of this draft, the Phoenix Coyotes selected defenseman Nick Ross, but here they take Thomas Hickey. Not a single game in the NHL for Ross either. Hickey, sure, he was a bit of a disappointment as the 4th overall pick, but he still has nearly 450 games to his credit and over 100 points. And with that, some honorable mentions. First off, Riley Nash. We mentioned him earlier. Over 560 games played, nearly 170 points. Well, you also have Paul Byron, over 450 games with nearly 200 points played. And Colton Sevier with over 460 games played and nearly 150 points. Amongst the defensemen, you have Yannick Weber, nearly 500 games and 100 points. Robert Bortuzzo, nearly 400 games and 60 points. He does have a Stanley Cup because St. Louis absolutely crushed it. And Steven Kampfer as well with over 200 games. And again, the only honorable mention for the goaltenders, not a single one selected in the first round, and the only guy who made anywhere close to an impact at the NHL level with a cup to his name is Scott Darling. So credit to Scott Darling being the best goalie from the 2007 class. With that, guys, that'll do it for this one. There is the board. Let me know what you think. Is there somebody who was an honorable mention or really who I didn't mention at all that you would have put in that first round now with the power of hindsight? Let me know as well what picks you think I outright managed to get wrong, or if you think, a team would have maybe not taken a forward at that time, gone for a defenseman. Let me know what you think of the 2007 class, how your team did, how you wish they did, and who they could have taken elsewhere. Of course, for the Bruins, it's pretty obvious what they could have done differently. Let me know. Looking forward to the comments. It's always fun to look back at the draft because, again, there is so much room for just different opinions and different takes on a subject like this. Of course, if you haven't already, make sure to check out everything else on the channel. Again, we've done plenty of these videos as well as videos on the other subject. Of course, check out everything in the description as well. Not only a link to the Twitch where we stream basically every night, but of course the Tougie's Take podcast as well, which you can find on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts. So many other things there listed as well. The Patreon, of course, where you can help me decide what type of videos we're going to cover next on this channel as well to at least get that preferential treatment. And I thank each and every one of you for checking out this video regardless. Until next time, have a good one, take it easy, and I'll see you later.